the podcast. I'm your host, Super Joe Pardo, and today I have a great guest. I was supposed to have a different great guest. Unfortunately, Benjamin Mullen, who was scheduled tonight, wasn't able to make it. He is taking care of his daughter. Props to him. I don't blame him, and I'm happy that he was able to make that happen. So tonight, I want to talk about some podcasting stuff. I want to talk about some updates to Icon for 2020 and, because some full transparency kind of things going on. And the person to my right, your left, my right, your right, but I'm pointing left to make that happen, is Samantha Riley. Give it up for her. Woo! She has been podcasting for almost 5 years now.
Yeah,
That is awesome. Anybody that makes this long either really loves it or is making too much money to know how to quit. I think you're both of those cases actually. For anybody who doesn't know, she was at MapCon 5 this year, and she was a huge help to both me and Amy and Jeanette, and of course her husband Leon, who we all affectionately call Babe. We're super essential to that, and for some reason, and I don't know how this happened, but we haven't had you yet on the show, Sam, here, the MapCon podcast. So, you know what? Why don't I let you introduce the rest of your introduction there?
So you've just put me on the spot. You just sent me a message 5 minutes ago and went, "Hey, are you free? Can you jump on?" So of course I jumped on, and it's beautiful and sunny here. Not exactly nighttime where you are. So great to be here. And I'm Samantha Riley. My podcast is Thought Leaders Business Lab. Have been podcasting for a while, not all the same show. I've learned lots of things along the way. Started with a different show, Unlimited Influence, and made the switch a couple of years ago. Happy to talk about that if you want to. But that's what I do, and I work with coaches, consultants, experts, thought leaders on how to really leverage their knowledge so that they can get paid more for it.
Absolutely, you do. And so before we jump into all that and more of your background and asking some questions, because I have some questions that I, for whatever reason, I don't think have been asked yet of you. I gotta prop up a couple things here. First off, if you aren't aware, Indie PodCon, formerly MapCon, is September 24th to the 26th this year in Atlantic City at the Ocean Resort Casino. I actually gotta finalize that contract. Like, I was just looking at the calendar because I got like 5 days to finalize that. So I'm working on it, Jessica, if you're watching. And you should totally be there. Sam is one of the committee advisors or advisors on the committee that I put together to help be able to manage the growth of Icon. And and we have a few other committee members, and we'll be announcing those names probably at a later date. But yeah, so there's just so many things going on, and I'll get into a little bit of that later. I got a prop, or I got a talk, or prop. This is a prop plug. So Sam and I have two things coming up, actually three things coming up. One, I haven't announced this yet, but it's just because it's all kind of coming together right as we've kind of been talking in the last like 48 hours. I got to take over the Philly podcast meetup group from meetup.com. Thanks to shout out to Mark Deal for making that happen. And our first meetup in Philly is going to be November 17th at we don't know where specifically yet, but the time is probably early afternoon, so like a 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock start. Wherever we're going to be, it'll be in Philly, so look out for more information about that. So just throw it on your calendar, November 17th.
That's a Sunday, right?
That's a Sunday, yeah, Sunday afternoon. And Sam, you'll be there.
I know, right? How cool is this? I reached out to you 24 hours ago and went, "You're never going to believe this. I'm coming back in a couple of weeks." I didn't think that I was coming back for the rest of the year, but it just so happens. And I went, "Hey, Joe, let's do something." That's the universe saying, "Do something else, guys. Come on."
Yeah, we could do better. We could do more. And yeah, I would have never expected that either. So it just makes sense to put together a meetup, and make all that happen. Now now plug why you are coming back to the States.
Yeah, so I was a judge in an international business competition. I was the judge for the women in business all around the world. And I was on a judging panel, I think, of at least 100 judges. And they chose 2 judges to come to a Women in Leadership conference, or the Future of Leadership, and to attend the award ceremony. And I was one of them. So I only found out yesterday morning, and within 10 minutes, that you were the very first person after Leon that I told. Because I'm like, guess what? I'm coming back.
Well, you were probably laying next to Leon still. It was, how early in the morning was that?
It was pretty early in the, yeah, it was about 6 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was like 4:00 in the afternoon or something, my time, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, super exciting. And then we've just pulled it together, and I've already had calls this morning and said, okay. Someone said, "Oh, it's an hour drive." And I said, "Hey, it's going to take me 30 hours to get there. I expect to see you there."
So that I'm very much looking forward to that. Shout out to Eric Hunley. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Eric.
Saying hi. So that's one of the things we got. November 17th. If you're in the Philly area, you're gonna want to be, have it on your calendar. I'll have more information once we have the information. I believe, Sam, you're gonna speak at this meetup.
Apparently, you told me I am. So
I prefaced it. I prefaced it. I faced it. I post-fest it. That you can if you want. You don't have to. No pressure.
Yeah. Well, look, I will definitely speak. But more than anything, I'm looking forward to catching up with a community of podcasters, because I think that when podcasters get together, it is a lot of fun, and there is a lot of funny conversations.
Absolutely. So the other thing that we have going on is next Thursday, you and I are running our second webinar. We did the Start Your Podcast webinar the other, 2 weeks ago or something like that. And this webinar is Monetize Your Podcast. It's next Thursday. Oh, it's this Thursday, not tomorrow. Next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can go to indiepodcon.com/MYP to register. Seats are limited, and you definitely want to come and have a great time with us. We kept somebody up that it was 1:00 in the morning their time, and was it Austria? I think.
Austria. She was in Austria, and she'd said to us that she was on. It was morning. I assumed it was like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and she's like, "No, it was 1 a.m." And it was such an awesome podcast that I stayed awake easily for the hour. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So you definitely, if you're interested in learning more about how to monetize your podcast, the why you should monetize your podcast, why you should look at sponsorships, and why you should not look at sponsorships as a way to do it, and have some of the beginning steps of that demystified, you definitely want to be at this webinar next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Blah blah blah. Let me see here. The last thing I have to plug is so it was called Elevate Your Podcast Mastermind and Retreat. We were talking and was like, maybe we should rename it to Monetize Your Podcast Mastermind and Retreat. So if you want to learn more about that, go to indiepodcon.com/retreat. It's all about building your business around your podcast, and really, the whole retreat part is coming together with a bunch of other great podcasters and getting in a space, getting the headspace, and getting the tools that you need to put a game plan together to start making money from your podcast and turning it into your business. The retreat is being held down in Orlando, Florida. of all places. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be warm because it's February. So the February retreat, the retreat is in February 6th through the 9th. And you can learn more about that indiepodcon.com/retreat. It's both Sam and I. Sam, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Not that I can think of, but I'm sure something will come into my head. Oh, yes, of course. See, it just took a little bit. It was called Elevate Your Podcast. We have renamed it Monetize Your Podcast because really we realize that is specifically what we're doing. We're helping people to not just make money from their podcast, but also how to put their leveraged products together so that they can make more money, understand how to how to lead people into those leveraged products, but also we've already been working with some of the guys how to stop working so many hours, because podcasters work an insane amount of hours, and if they're doing that with their podcast and in their business, it doesn't take long and it just gets a bit too much. So already helping the guys to, and when I say guys, I mean ladies and gentlemen.
Pronouns are a thing. They hurt people's feelings.
Exactly. Bad habit of mine. So yeah, helping
most
them
of
to
the
already oh, how's that video you sent me yesterday on how to speak Australian?
Yeah,
we've got our own language down here. It was very good. Anyway, we digress, Joe. Let's get back on track.
yes, we do. Shout out to Brent Basham. How we doing, Brent?
Hey, Brent.
So that's what we have going on now. Let's dive into you and what. So when it comes to podcasting, I think the first question I want to ask is, what is it like to not have the gear itch?
The gear itch? What do you mean?
Yes. Okay. So the gear itch is like this microphone, or like the mixer it's hooked up to, or the bigger mixer that I want to buy, or the better microphone that I want to buy, or the better headphones that I want to buy, or the bigger screen that I want to buy. Like that itch.
Yeah. And that's so funny because, Leon and I were just talking about this the other day. Like, you guys have all got the most awesome setups, and I just sit here with my Apple earpods and go, all right, do this interview, moving on. I don't have the itch because my life moves too fast. And for me, I think, of course I want my podcast to sound great, but at the moment, it's more about let's just make sure that my listeners have really amazing interviews that they can listen to, get the information that they're looking for, have access to the guests that I bring. They don't really care what my setup looks like. They just don't. They care about when I go out walking today, am I going to have Sam in my earbuds bringing me an amazing guest that's going to share some value with me? Cool gear that I don't have set up because I'm very tech challenged. But I'm here. I've got my voice, I've got my brain, and I think that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, so Brent says in the chat, message over is greater than mic, and I totally could not agree more with that, except for the fact that if I had a different mic, like if I was rocking a Blue Yeti like I was several years ago, you would be hearing my daughter scream at the top of her lungs right now from the top of the stairs. So, which is like,
and I think that the Apple, like, this is better than a Blue Yeti. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, if you're not using it right, yeah.
Well, I'm tech challenged, so I probably wasn't using it right. Whatever. Moving. Yeah. Look, what I'm saying, I'm not saying don't have good tech. Your voice with the microphone, and I listen to Amy J and Eric and all the other podcasters that I met at MapCon. I will say that it does sound better. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm just saying that right now I just am so like I've got things to do, and that's not my priority.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, you don't have a screaming child like right over there screaming at the top of her lungs. So I mean, Right, and before I did, I had a Blue Yeti, and I was like, yeah, this is fine. It's no big deal. Like the house is relatively quiet. I record mostly during the day. It's a little annoying when the people are mowing their lawn around me, but it's not the end of the world. And just as that has as my life has grown, so has my need to have a little more closeness with the mic.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Eric says Blue Yeti, boo. So yeah, so I I don't disagree, but there is a way, there is a way to use it. There is you'll probably get a little bit of hiss at the very least, but I think it is important that finding what works right for you from an equipment standpoint. I was watching, so I'm in the market for buying a new camera. So I already have two Canon M50s, which are these little, I don't have one right at but it's like this. It's the one I used at MapCon to vlog with. But the vlog is coming, by the way. I'm about halfway through editing the vlog, so we're almost there. Once it's done, I will set a release date, a premiere date, so y'all can just come. And is y'all a proper pronoun in this day and age? I don't know, but all of you can come and hang out and watch and chat as we relive the memories of MapCon and get some behind the scenes look at what went into making it happen. So and with that, so I was just watching it. So anyway, getting back to stories, like I was watching a video talking about the Canon EOS R, which is like their big, like the big mirrorless camera and all that. And they're like, oh, well, some of the features are, it needs to have these features to be a pro thing. And the person I'm watching, which is Jared Polin, Fro Knows Photo, he's like, that's BS. Literally any camera can be a pro camera. It doesn't matter. It's how you use it, not what what features it has. And with that said, people make like pinhole cameras, right? And somebody made a whole video, Dan Mace made a whole video from a pinhole camera. Like, if you don't know what a pinhole camera is, go look it up. It's really cool. And he basically made a slideshow out of pinhole camera. Like, he made a shoebox basically with a little pinhole in it, and you put film in it, and that's how you get your pictures. It's awesome. And he made a whole film around it. So you can do literally anything. And so for me, like I would agree that you don't necessarily need this microphone to look great, sound great, and all that, versus like Apple earbuds that come in the box of an iPhone.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the best way to do it. That's definitely not what I'm saying at all. I do have a bit of envy for the way you all sound, but I think that something I've learned over the years is that there's always going to be someone that judges whatever you do. And there's going to be a whole heap of podcasters out there going, oh, Sam thinks she's so good and all she's got is that. But you know what? It doesn't matter what microphone I've got. Someone's going to be saying the same thing, right? And I would rather be the person taking action than the person not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's a lot of effort that goes into knowing the knowledge to make this stuff work, right? Like it doesn't just, even, I mean, in your case, even your ATR 2100 microphone, that's literally USB, still requires some knowledge to get it, to select the right settings and all that, versus like, I just pop in these headphones here and the computer already knows to pick it up on and switch everything over to it.
Yeah, yeah. And if I started using my other microphone, who'd be getting a call every day, right, Joe?
Yeah, no, I don't need to be getting it.
Yeah, exactly. Screen share. Joe, what button do I push? What do I do here?
Well, exactly. So, I'm appreciative of those headphones. Don't ever break them, please. So when it shout out to Tim, by the way, down in Virginia, y'all is a proper pronoun. I'm not surprised it's you all, so it's you, like isn't you. So when it comes to interviewing, I think this is a great question for you, because when it comes to interviewing, being very like how intentional are you? Because you said you had a podcast prior, right? Which was
Yep.
Unlimited Influence.
Yep.
You know, were you as intentional before or more intentional now, or you know, or what kind of guests, how have you refocused your guest choosing ability?
I think that's really cool because when you say intentional, I was intentional, but in a different way. So with my first show, so a big part of what I do is help people to build their authority and build their personal brands. So Unlimited Influence was sharing the stories of successful entrepreneurs on how they had built their brands. So the message was intentional. The people that I brought onto the show, it was intentional because it was people that had successfully built their brands and, you know, had a lot to share. And because I hadn't podcasted before, I used set questions. And I'm not a fan of set questions at all. However, it gave me the safety that I needed when I first started my show because I was so nervous. And if I knew what the questions were going to be, I could just focus on my guest rather than me thinking, what am I going to ask? So it was intentional, but in a different way. So when I decided that I wasn't quite hitting the mark with my ideal client, that's when I decided to change the name of the show, and we delved into a lot more topics rather than just personal branding, because I think it gave the wrong impression of what I did, because branding was just such a tiny little bit of what I did with my clients. So as soon as I could break down, well, how do I help my clients? Well, it's helping them to build their authority positioning, you know, get clear on their messaging, helping them to build out their programs, helping them, you will laugh at this, helping them with their technology, because even though I'm tech challenged, I'm still not all at the same time. Helping them to build their teams and build their systems and all these things that people need to build their online coaching business. So the reason for the show was so that now I could really speak directly to my ideal client and help them with the exact business that I help people to build.
Mm. So that's how you go about choosing the guests that you bring on to the show.
So I know exactly what the model of my business. When I say the model, I follow a thought leader's positioning model, which is my 9-step system of how I help coaches and consultants to build their businesses. So all I do is look and say, well, who can bring value in one of these 9 pieces or in multiple pieces of this model, this thought leader's positioning model. And that's how I know that I'm absolutely on point every time I bring a guest onto the show.
No, I love that. And how do you navigate the fact that like they are probably also coaches in their own right, and that like you're cross promoting there, or do you not worry about that?
I think that's a really cool question. I don't, because I don't believe in competition.
Well, I
Because
didn't
I
say
think
competition, but it's
no, but
competition
that's
in
essentially what it is,
space,
right?
not necessarily
Yeah.
competing with you, but competing for mind space, or
Yeah.
yeah, I guess mind space.
Yeah, I get that, and I meant it just in, you know, that's what a lot of people would do, not bring their, you know, competitors. That's essentially what it is, like people that offer similar services. But I think that the more that we can all come together and collaborate, the better, because this really showed, or it really came to me a few years ago. I've got a very good friend here in Sydney, and essentially he does what I do. And it's funny, every time we caught up, we were pretty much creating a similar program. Every time we spoke, he's like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing, you know. And he's younger, like he's in his 30s and male, obviously. I'm in my 40s, I'm female. And what we discussed one night was the fact that every time we asked what each other was doing, we would stop what we were doing, because each of us would think that the other person was going to do it better. Like he would say, oh, Sam's doing it, she'll do it better, I'm not going to do it anymore. But I would do the same. Oh, he's better than I am, I won't do that anymore. And we sat down one night and went, you know what, this is so silly, because it's a male perspective, female perspective. We're completely different ages. We're in a different, you know, we're completely different. The way that our personalities are is very different. The way that we teach is very different. Our own perspective is very different. And it was specifically with this person that I realized, you know what, we all attract different people, like different clients, even if we do the same thing. So to help my listeners get the most value from my show, bringing these people on is going to actually serve them better. That by it's about serving my listeners. It's not about me necessarily getting clients, even though the intention, that's what I do. But the overarching intention is to bring as much value as I can. Hence why I bring people onto my show that do what I do, because the perspective that they bring is different.
I'm glad that you said all that, and I think that's really important. I think that's going to help somebody that's listening or watching here on Facebook Live or YouTube or wherever you're consuming this content, because it is in a lot, or even it's on Periscope right now too, and I think we might be on Twitch as well.
Wow!
So that's the power of Restream. So I think that's really, really powerful. I definitely believe in the growing together and all of that. I just wanted to hear, how that correlated to, because you're investing time into your podcast, even if you're not investing time like on the podcast equipment or on the, that side of things.
There's still, I don't do anything after I've done the interview. I don't touch a thing. My team does that. So there's still a cost, right? Because I'm paying people to edit it, and I'm paying them to upload it, and I'm paying someone to do my show notes and upload that, and the marketing, and reaching out to guests. That all has either a monetary cost or a time cost, whichever way. It doesn't matter which currency you're using. There's still a cost. There was someone I interviewed a little while ago, and I felt like it was not going to serve my community, because they were talking about how everything should be manual and how we shouldn't use automation, and how we should, the way that we connect with people is at local networking groups. And that was the only episode that I've held back, and I did, because it goes against everything that I stand for. I don't mind people having different perspectives. I think that's what does provide the value. But it was absolutely everything that I know that really has coaches struggling. And I thought, no, in all integrity, I can't publicize that episode, because it would be giving the wrong information for my, with my belief system.
Yeah. Eric Hunley, I agree with that sentiment. He says, I'm jealous.
Well,
having
guys,
a team
this
help
is
a
what
lot.
I teach. This is what I teach. How to have your team working for you.
Yes. Well, speaking of team, so I think that kind of segues into talking a little bit about behind the scenes of Icon, right? And the fact that, so we've had two since MapCon 5 wrapped up, we've had two committee meetings so far. I feel really good about them. I think that they've gone really well, and we have some good plans for the third one, and bringing a few more people on. And normally during this time of year, I would be like frantically working on my next book, because it's after MapCon, and I have like 3 months to like work as hard as I could to get the next, any other project I could together before the year started, and then start looking at MapCon and kind of, chunk. I don't think I've ever been recording podcasts or doing live streams after the event. Mostly just getting the vlog done and like boop and send it off, and then go hibernate for the winter. But so we're putting, there's a lot of behind the scenes work going in. The other day, or yesterday actually, I posted the question about which content creators or influencers or podcasters would you like to learn from and see as a keynote speaker at Icon 2020. And right now, leading the poll by a pretty healthy margin is Dave Jackson, Pat Flynn, and Leo Laporte, which is cool. I mean, they're all guys, which help me out, everybody here. Help me out, everybody here. It would be helpful. Now, some of the people that I personally would like to see there, so, well, all right, so how did we get to this point, right? And what are we actually looking for? So like, I have my vision of what I'm, in my mind, what I'm thinking of. Now I know the rest of my team, because it's like the secret word, team.
You've got a team.
Yeah, I know all of them have their own ideas and visions for what that would look like, because we're really looking hard at the schedule. Sam put together a wonderful outline for template of a schedule, and really we're setting our setting our boundaries early this year. And in past years, honestly, I basically took who I could get to submit. And usually it'd be 30, 40, 50 submissions. And I'd be like, okay, how do we jam the square into the round hole, or is it the round hole? No, it's the square into the round hole. And
either way, it's not going to fit.
Yeah, it's not designed to go in there. So that's I would genuinely be trying to get as many people into it. And this year, with the rebranding to Independent Podcast Conference, and now having a team and really trying to look at, like, scrutinize every little bit and answer all of the feedback that that I've gotten over the last 5 years, and now being able to implement some of that feedback that I wasn't able to before because I didn't have a team, is really, really something special that it means the world to me to be able to do that. So in my mind, I have this idea, like, okay, well, if we're gonna pack in like 300 to maybe like 400 people at this conference, I think we're at that point we're at a level where we can look at, like, how do we get a high level keynote speaker that's in the podcasting content creation space and all that. So some of the names that, like, I threw out there, and this is purely by followership, is the mark, not necessarily finding out, like, are they actually a good speaker, and then figuring out, are they worth the budget that we're going to put towards that. I'm looking at people that have like 5 million subscribers on YouTube and more, right? 6 million, 10 million plus. So that's the kind. Now, with that said, I don't necessarily have, like, somebody I would absolutely love to have come speak at Icon is like Casey Neistat, but, like, his price is just way too, it's not realistic, unless we sell like thousands of tickets, like 1,000 tickets, right? Then it could be realistic. But, like, when you start talking about, like, over $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a talk, like, that's a lot. Would you agree, Sam?
I would definitely agree. And here's an interesting point too. Like, I would definitely love to hear Casey Neistat speak, but am I going to get more value from hearing someone that was one of the original YouTubers that didn't have to hustle as hard as someone who's actually got, 1 million followers from 2 years ago? Like, where am I going to get the most value? Because the person that started a YouTube channel 2 years ago and has 1 million followers, I'm going to learn way more from that person, right?
I think so. So, like, there's some names, there's some names that I'm thinking of that aren't necessarily that are more in the category of you, like Potato Jet is one of them. Maybe Maddie Hapoy out of Canada, or Sarah Dici, who is in New York, and she has, I think it's like 4, 5, or 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. Plus, she has her own podcast. Plus, she does a lot in that space of, like, helping other creators create. So there's definitely, some names, like, I would love to have Linus from Linus Tech Tips. Like, this dude literally was working at NCIX, was a computer shop, and started, he went from being like a grunt to a manager to running their YouTube channel to leaving there to start his own, because they had NCIX Tech Tips, became Linus Tech Tip. Like, he started his own Tech Tips and then turned into, now he has, I think it was like 30 or 40 employees. They produce like 10 or 15 videos a week across 3 or 4 channels. It's insane, like, what they have going on there. So that's the kind of stuff that, I think those are the types of people that could have a lot to contribute to it. and aren't necessarily speaking on every creator space.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So he's saying he's a great YouTuber, but they are not podcasters. I disagree. They are podcasters. Like Linus is a podcaster because he has the WAN show he does every Friday, live streaming it just like we're live streaming this show, and turns it into a podcast. So not only is he championing YouTube, but he has podcasting too.
And I think that there's a lot of crossover. There's so many things that we can learn, how to create engaging content. It might be different, but they still know how to create engaging content. How do we market? How do we get more, viewers? How do we get more listeners? How do we grow channels? How do we grow brands? There's so many different things that we could learn. Really, even though I said before I'd rather learn from this person than this person, it doesn't matter who's up there. You learn something. I always learn something from every person I hear.
Yeah, and I think, but I would say that the caveat is that we're not looking for someone to give their, origin story, right?
Yeah,
like that's not what we're trying to pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or whatever the budget ends up being, like across however many people that we go with to fill these roles that we are defining as we go here. That's not that's not what, in my opinion, at least, that's not what we're looking for. It's like someone to come up there and be like, I was nobody, and then I went to like the guy. Oh, there was the guy that started his YouTube channel from the Apple Store. Like he would just I think it was in New York. Like he would just go to the 24-hour Apple Store or whatever, and I think he was homeless too, created a whole YouTube following from the webcam on the IMAX there.
Oh. There you
go. Like that. I have to look up who that guy was, and if he's still doing it, or like what the deal is. But yeah, that is a that's a story right there. But even being a story, like there, we got to know the market, more marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah, like actual strategies, how podcasters, whatever that is, what actionable advice can we take back to our home studios or behind the mic to create a better show, whatever that means.
Yeah. So anyway, the point being is that we're looking at these things and trying to see who we could get and where they're going to come from and fill that role for us. And who knows, maybe there's an opportunity to rent a much bigger space for that one talk too. Like if we have that many people that we're trying to cram into an area or something like that. Depends. It all depends, right? Because what the other thing is in my mind, and this, just being totally like upfront and honest and transparent about it is the word I'm looking for. I want to bring a name that also will sell a bunch of tickets as well, that has a big enough pool of people that they are interested in starting their own podcast, right? So it's not just people that are like, oh man, like I got to go see Linus, or oh man, I got to go see MK. Like, cool, but like we really want them to be interested in the podcast part of Independent Podcast Conference, and wanting to start their own thing, not just like, oh cool, I can go, spend a couple $100 and go see my favorite YouTube talk. Like, there's other places to go do that. You should probably consider doing that if that's all you really want out of it, not actual actionable information for you to go start your own podcast or create your own content in general. So that's just one of the things that we have going on, and trying to work out the schedule and how many speakers we're going to have. Let's see. Have you looked at Tim Pool? I'm not familiar with Tim Pool.
I only know Deadpool.
So that's just some of the things that we have going on behind the scenes and working towards. I think the speaker submissions are going to be available. I want to say the page says January, but I'm not sure. So if you're interested in speaking, it's still going to be a thing. You can still apply to speak. And another thing I was thinking about, Sam, was it's January 2nd, 2020. Speaking applications opens is like by having those one or two or like keynote speakers, it elevates everybody else, right? You'd be like, I shared a stage with. And I remember I was gonna go. I was trying to apply for Inbound, and I was like, "Oh man, Alec Baldwin's gonna be one." I'm not even that big of an Alec Baldwin, but like other people are. And if I said like I got to share a stage that Alec Baldwin was on, like how cool would that be?
Well, that's all authority positioning, right? And it is something that you
Exactly.
should pay attention to because that's it's great for brand building.
Well, exactly. I mean, when I tell people I spoke at the United Nations, like it was in the United Nations building. It had the earpieces with the little microphones and one of those big like auditorium things, but it wasn't like the main room. But it was still in the building. I mean, only there's only so many names that have done that. So
yeah.
So that's one of those things where it's like trying to figure out like who can we bring in that's gonna help sell some tickets, that has a big enough audience that they can help, just their name will help pull people in that are interested in podcasting, as well as elevating everybody else, as well as teaching everybody else. Like that's the kind of stuff that I want to invest the money into. Keyword invest, right? Not spend. Because it's for my own benefit too, right? And as well as everybody else's, to learn from the people who are doing it the biggest, not necessarily the best, but the biggest.
But the best is just an opinion anyway, right?
That's more. Yeah, right. Yeah. The biggest is a objective, not as subjective. But I mean, it could be both. But yeah. So anyway, what else did we have? So, Sam, what's one thing you love about podcasting?
My favorite thing about podcasting is the people that I get to meet, the guests that come on the show, because being able to reach out to people and interview people from all over the world that you would never normally get a chance to speak to, not only notifications, not only that you would not normally get to speak to, but that you get to speak to one-on-one for 45 minutes, maybe an hour, people that you would never have the chance to speak to and you can ask them whatever you want. So as a podcaster, I mean, I don't know about you, Joe, but I learn so much from my guests because I get to ask whatever it is I want. It's like it's like my own training program for me, so I love that. I love the people that I get to meet. I've done so many collaborations and joint ventures with the guests that have been on the show, people that I've really vibed with, and, we connect and we go on to do other things like, you and we've been on each other's podcasts multiple times, and I've been to the States to meet you multiple times, and we'll get you to Australia one time soon.
I will get there for sure.
Yeah, I know it's not a cheap trip, I know, but you get to meet people all over the world and collaborate with them. That's what I love the most.
Yeah, that is one of the top things that I love about podcasting as well, is being able to connect with awesome people like yourself and like so many of the people both watching, listening right now, and the people in our group, and all the awesome people that I've met, all the books that I have stacked up onto my right over here. That, I mean, I don't really read books, and they know that, but that's the kind of stuff that it just matters to me. I don't know. It matters to me more than almost anything else. Is just being able to connect with awesome people, doing awesome things. And Veronica says, so true. Podcasting has opened up so many doors for us. We have met so many cool people. Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that, because that really, to me, is the number one thing. The number two thing is learning, as Sam also said, is getting to learn from, I don't read books, but I read people, and that's my opportunity to read people. So where do you see podcasting heading into the future?
I really don't know. This isn't something that I've put a lot of research or read anything, so it's I'm certainly not the people to ask that to. I'm not your Todd Cochran, I'm not your Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not that person. All I know is that things change, and they change quickly. And I know that from being in business for so many years. Things that you think will always be the same just aren't. So for me, I can't answer that question, but what I do know is that it will continue. It'll just be in a different form. I don't think it's going to go away. I just don't think it's going to be in exactly the same form that we know it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, evolved, like a micro evolved recently with the advent of live streaming like we're doing right now. To being able to take comments and stuff, just like this one from Veronica that's below me. Like that I think is like it's just a micro evolution of it. I don't know, because like voice, it was radio, right? And before that was like the monogram or whatever, or records, and then the monogram. So I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure either, but I didn't know if you had, just your perspective on it.
What I do know is that, what I love that has evolved from radio is now we're not giving people what we want to give them or what we think they need. As independent podcasters coming into the space, we now can give people what we really know that they're looking for. People ask and we answer, we provide what they want. So I love this new phase or new era of actually being able to give people what they want rather than just telling them.
That is a great point. And having the option, right? Like we turn on our TVs and we have like 800 channels, and there's a butt for every seat in the channel world. But when it comes to radio, like there's like a couple hundred, like maybe 100 channels or less, probably, just in FM and AM. So when you look at that, between that and then you have XM, that's about it. So I mean, XM has a couple hundred channels themselves, but there's still like a lot of room for people that are like, I want a podcast all about whatever, whatever thing that somebody is super, super into. And I want it to come out every single week, and I want to be able to listen to it and enjoy it while my car ride to work. So,
well, I know that you and I spoke about this on our webinar recently, that people are still starting YouTube channels. There's 5 million YouTube channels out there. There's 5 million blogs out there. There's only 700,000 podcasts out there. So we're only just getting started. And I hear so often people saying, oh, why would I start a podcast? There's already so many out there. But there's how many billion people on the planet? There will be listeners. There will be people that want to hear what you've got to say. It might not be, millions of people, but gosh, even if you had 50 people listening, like that's 50 people's lives you're changing in whatever way. No matter what your podcast is, you're giving them some sort of transformation from listening to your show. So I think that, we're only just getting started.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're like 15 years into this thing, but it is really just at the beginning because of the adoption rate. I just got my haircut tonight, and I was talking to my hairdresser about the fact that it was like 2006 or something like that. And I remember talking to one of my coworkers who was real big into home theater equipment, and I was like, "Oh, are you going to get an Apple TV?" And they're like, I've never heard of that before. None of my friends have ever heard.
Really?
No one's ever mentioned. I was like, how you read all the magazines? You're literally giving me the home theater magazine every single month because he gets 2 of them for whatever. There was like a glitch, and they would send him 2 copies, so he'd give him one to me. And he's like, "No, I never heard of that." And I'm like, "But
wow, I've
it's
had Apple
incredible
TV for like 5 years."
Right. Well, now, but like we're going back to like 2006, I think it was launched. Let's see, Apple TV first launch. The first one came out, late 2006. It was shown off in like 2006. early 2007. Yeah, so it, originally it wasn't like a streaming box. It was like it was basically an iPod where you would download the movie to the Apple TV and hold it locally. And yeah, then eventually several years later they were able to you were able to just stream the movies like you do now. But the original was not like that. It was like you had to download the whole film and then you could watch it and then delete it because you'd run out of space eventually. So, but it's just crazy that the adoption rate took like not 10 years, but probably like 6 to 6 to 7, 8 years for people to like start to really adopt it. And for something even like the Fire Stick to come out where it's like $20 like all day you can put hook up one to every single one of your TVs and stream your Netflix and all that. So it takes a long time for people to adopt and change their habits. I mean, I know even for me, like I get in the car, depending on what for the most part, depending on what time of the day it is, I'll turn on the radio to listen to the local sports channel because we have 4 major sports teams here. So that I want to get updated on what's going on. I don't get to watch every game or anything like that, but I at least want to hear it. Plus I'm listening for cues of like, what are they doing that I could incorporate into my, into my show, how I broadcast and project and entertain and that kind of stuff. So I'm not just listening for the perspective of like the sports. Like sometimes I there isn't a whole lot going on during certain periods of the year. And I just want to hear like, how are they filling in that space, right? How are they being entertaining? How are they keeping their listenership going while there's like it's all-star break during the summer for baseball. Well, there's like nothing going on during that like whole week. So, there's nothing to really update about. And that's the only sport going on at the time. So you got, you have to make things up, or even when, when things are going bad, or what topics they'll talk about that aren't sports related, right? Like that to me is a fine line of learning, like what can they talk about that is identifying with their audience, right? With their demographic. Oh, I lost Sam here. There's Sam. Identifying with their audience yet isn't sports related at all. One of the great shows I love listening to is on Saturdays. I will listen to Glenn Macnow and Ray Didinger, and it's like 2 old guys talking for 3 hours, mostly about sports, but also about historical sports and movies and TV shows. And if you don't know who either of them are, you should definitely go Google them. But it's just great conversation, and listening to like their banter and all that is just awesome. I mean, Ray is in the I think the NFL Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure he's in the NFL. I think it's the NFL Hall of Fame as a journalist. So it's, those types of things. Like I'm totally picking up and listening to what they're doing and how they're doing it to make myself better, even though it's not a podcast. So I could listen to it as a podcast because they do podcast their radio shows. So Sam, before we wrap up here, because we got a bunch of things to plug, is there any last thoughts you'd like to give our guests about how you approach podcasting and how either going back into the technology or your guest choosing, interviewing prowess? Can you hear me, Sam? I don't think she can hear me. Can you hear me? You can't hear me, can you? Oh no. Oh no, she can't hear me. Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Sam? She's just been sitting there smiling this whole time. Oh no. Try unplugging your headphone. Unplug your headphones and plug them back in, baby. Hello? Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna take this opportunity to. Oh, she left. So I'm sure when she comes back, it'll be working. But I'll take this moment to she wrote to me that she lost sound a while ago. I'll take this opportunity to plug Icon. It's September 24th to the 26th, 2020 in Atlantic City. Get it on your calendar. Get your ticket. It's available now at $199. I promise you it will not be staying at $199. We're looking at about 300 plus podcasters in the room, networking, learning from each other, participating in different workshops and activities along the way. Excuse me. You are not going to want to miss it. Let's see. What did Eric said? Now we know what she might do with Leon. Good one, Eric. If you are wanting to learn how to monetize your podcast, join us next Thursday. Me and Sam are running a free webinar called Monetize Your Podcast. Go to indiepodcon.com/MYP. M is in Mary, Y is in yellow, P is in podcast. To register, seats are limited. We will demystify making money with your podcast. And if you want to take it one step further, if you've already have your podcast and you want to take it to the next level, go check out the Monetize Your Podcast Mastermind and Retreat, indiepodcon.com/retreat. We'll show you how to build your own business around your podcast, creating great products to leverage your podcast, leverage those products, leverage everything that you have, your authority, and getting all the branding and everything proper so that you can go and make money with your podcast and turn it into your business. You should, if you haven't joined us, please join us in the Facebook group, indiepodcon.com/group. If you want to be a guest on the Indie Podcon show, you can go to indiepodcon.com/guest. I think we're like in April or May at this point. I think you can only register. It's one per week. Almost every Wednesday, I'll be here with updates and another guest week after week. So Sam says she's sorry, can't get back in. Great to hang out with you tonight. Great to hang out with you, Sam. Thank you for taking the time from the beautiful weather that you have. It is cold, windy, and raining here. And if you are in the Philadelphia area, you should totally come hang out with us. And I can't find my banner for it. November 17th. November 17th. Put it on your calendar because we are having a Philly podcast meetup. Come hang out with podcasters. Put it on your calendar. November 17th. It's going to be in the afternoon. So like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock with the start time. I'll have more to announce probably next week once I figure out where we're going to have this event. We are actually expecting a number of people after sending out a bunch of messages to people privately. Yes, Eric, Sam is a rock star, and we are fortunate to have her. Fortunate to have you as well. So if you're in the Philly area, get down to Philly November 17th. It's a Sunday. Eagles don't play till 4:30, so come hang out prior to that and have a good time. Sam will be speaking at the meetup, and we will probably go for drinks and food afterwards somewhere in the city. We'll figure it out. Anyway, I hope you all have a great week ahead, and I will talk to you all next week when my guest, who I should have wrote down ahead of time, is going to be Mary Nichols. I am super excited to talk to her next week, and we will get Benjamin Mullen, who was scheduled to be on the show tonight, in another episode coming up. I'll try to work it in. And actually, I do actually know our next guest will be Jan, coming from Europe. And we're actually going to be doing a special episode on Saturday at 9 a.m. So this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, there'll be another episode of the Indie podcast. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to Mary Nichols on next Wednesday. Looking forward to Thursday with the webinar. Everybody have a great week. Thank you for hanging in there with me.